In a league where narratives shift with every possession and star power reigns supreme, the Indiana Fever walked into Gainbridge Fieldhouse facing a moment that could have unraveled everything they had fought to build this season. They were bruised, battered, and missing their brightest light, Caitlin Clark sidelined with a groin injury. But what unfolded that night against the defending champion Las Vegas Aces wasn't just a regular season upset. It was something deeper, more defiant. It was a team, counted out and dismissed, rising not in the shadow of their absent superstar, but in spite of it. It was Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, and a supporting cast turning skepticism into fire. And it was a statement so loud that even the MVP herself, A'ja Wilson, couldn't silence it. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The Fever had just dropped back-to-back games to the New York Liberty, their momentum shaken, their confidence slipping. The whispers had already begun maybe the Fever were just a Caitlin Clark show. Maybe, without her, they were destined to tumble out of playoff contention. The media latched onto it. Fans online didn't hold back. While Clark, Indiana was invisible, and yet, when the Fever took the floor on July 24th, something felt different. It wasn't swagger. It was resolve. Head coach Stephanie White had spent the week drilling home the fundamentals, not just on the court, but mentally. She reminded her players that real contenders don't panic when the floor beneath them shakes. They plant their feet, they fight. White didn't just want her players to win. She wanted them to own who they were without Clark. She altered the game plan, shifting focus to off-ball movement, defensive discipline, and balanced shot selection. She knew Caitlin Clark brought gravity, but gravity could be redistributed. She wasn't building a backup plan, she was constructing a battleground. But standing on the other side were the Las Vegas Aces, back-to-back champions and still the most battle-tested team in the WNBA, led by A'ja Wilson, who's not just a two-time MVP, but a symbol of dominance. The Aces smelled blood. Wilson has never hidden her frustration with the way media. Attention tilts toward Clark. And with the Fever missing their biggest name, this was supposed to be Vegas's statement game. A night to reclaim the spotlight. A night to put the Fever back in their place. But championships aren't won on narrative alone. The first half was a tug-of-war. Each side landing punches but never quite taking control. Then came the third quarter, and something within Kelsey Mitchell finally ignited. Up until that point, Mitchell had struggled, going just 4-for-19 from the field. Her early misses were agonizing to watch. She looked tentative, off rhythm, frustrated everything a player can't afford to be in a game like this. But Coach White didn't bench her. She leaned in. She pulled Mitchell aside and offered just 5 words. Asterisk. Let it fly. It's going. Asterisk it. Was the permission Mitchell needed not just to shoot, but to lead. She started driving with purpose, pulling up with confidence, splashing threes that sent shockwaves through the arena. By the fourth quarter, she was no longer playing to survive. The game, she was owning it. 9 points, 4 assists, and just 1 miss in the game's final 12 minutes. Mitchell wasn't just replacing Clark. She was rewriting the ending. But even as Mitchell rose from the ashes of early game frustration, it was Sophie Cunningham who set the court ablaze. And if you've been paying attention, you know this wasn't a fluke. Cunningham had been red hot leading into this Game 6 straight contests, scoring in double figures, averaging nearly 14 points a night and hitting threes at an absurd 58.1% clip. She had become, statistically, the most dangerous shooter in the league during the month of July. But the question remained, could she do it when it mattered most? Against Las Vegas, that answer was written in bold. 3 of 4 from deep. 15 points that didn't just pad stats, they buried momentum. Every time Vegas looked ready to surge, Cunningham dropped a dagger. She stretched the floor, attacked mismatches, and reminded everyone why she was inserted into the starting lineup in the first place. She wasn't just a shooter, she was a shot creator, a rebounder, a floor spacer, and a vocal leader. Stephanie White called her another ball handler, but that barely captures the gravity she brings. Sophie Cunningham doesn't just fill gaps, she creates new possibilities. And while Mitchell and Cunningham took turns hammering the Aces' defense, Natasha Howard was doing the dirty work that few notice, but every winning team needs. 18 points, 13 rebounds, and a relentless defensive presence that kept the Aces from ever finding a rhythm. She smothered passing lanes, closed out shooters, and talked nonstop on defense. When Howard spoke after the game, her message was simple. Asterisk, our defense gets our offense going. And it wasn't just a soundbite, it was the truth. The Fever were dictating tempo, denying second-chance opportunities, and suffocating the Aces with every possession. It wasn't flashy. It was fundamental, and it worked. But even with all of that Mitchell's surge, Cunningham's sharpshooting, Howard's anchored the game still teetered late in the fourth quarter. The Fever held a 5-point lead with just 35 seconds left. That's nothing against a team like Vegas. One stop. 1-3. One mistake. And it's a tie game. The Aces had clawed their way back into contention. Enter Ari McDonald. She had been solid all game, delivering 9 points, 4 assists, and 2 steals off the bench. But in the closing moments, McDonald found herself isolated at the top of the arc with the clock winding down. No hesitation. No nerves. Just confidence. She stepped back and launched a deep three over the outstretched arms of her defender. Splash. The arena erupted. Clark jumped off the bench, her face lit with joy. The Fever had just slammed the door on the champions. McDonald had only taken that one shot in the entire fourth quarter, but she made it count more than anyone could have imagined. Why that one moment wasn't just about sealing the wind. It's symbolic. A full-circle declaration that this team, often mocked as a one-star circus, was far more than the sum of its headlines. With that three, the Fever didn't just win the game. They secured the season's series tiebreaker over Las Vegas on edge that could prove crucial in the brutal race for playoff seeding. It marked their 13th win of the season, pushing them above .500 and into 6th place in the standings. But the standings don't tell the whole story. What matters is how they won. They did it without Clark. Without the player everyone says they can't win without. They did it with role players becoming stars, with veterans stepping into leadership, and with a bench that believes every moment is theirs to seize. This was more than a victory. This was a referendum on what the Fever are building, a foundation rooted in toughness, versatility, and belief. When Caitlin Clark returns, she won't be returning to a team in crisis. She'll be rejoining a machine already starting too. With purpose. So now, the league has to ask itself a new question. If the Indiana Fever are this dangerous without their star, what happens when she's back? Drop a comment below. Are you buying into the Fever as legit contenders? Should Sophie Cunningham be in the conversation for 6th Player of the Year? And was this Kelsey Mitchell's defining moment? If you're fired up, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a second of this. WNBA roller coaster. The next chapter's coming fast. Stand. Trust us. You're going to want to be there when it drops.